amp2tv.square.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Amp2.tv presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on amp2.tv. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Happy Tuesday, everyone.
Hola.
Hola. Buenos dias. What else can we say? Welcome.
Come and tell you.
Welcome to Tell Us Your Biz live Tuesday night from WWNN Studios, 95.3 FM, 96.9 FM, 1470 AM. We've got our good old board op back in studio. Give him a call. Say hey to Dan, 888-565-1470. Dan is back with us. Running our
Feeling
sound.
good.
And we're looking good. We're sounding good.
Mr. Radio is looking good.
Radio voice is looking good on
I gotta
radio.
tell you, I'm a little punch drunk.
We're a little tired.
Because we've done a lot of hours on the air. I didn't even know what language to say. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
How many languages do you speak? I know I would not take your
17.
tagline.
16 in English and then,
And it's only Tuesday.
oh my God, it is. Only Tuesday.
But it's all good. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. We've got Dr. THC in the house, otherwise
Hillary
known
Taylor.
as Dr. Taylor's Holistic Community in the house. Always nice to have a play on words joining us. She is a life coach joining us from Boca Raton. Wow.
I wanted to
Thank
play
you for
on that one.
playing. Freddie is in the house. We've had a great show today in the cafe. If you missed it, check it out. Press rewind. Tell us you watched it. We had Dr. Lemon Bubble, not Dr. Lemon Bubbles in the house. Lemon Pop Bubble. So you
Mr.
want to talk
Bubbles.
about having fun? Spreading fun one bubble at a time.
Yes. And he's good for for children's birthday parties,
Yep.
adult birth, everything. We're going to be bringing him back and doing some super duper stuff with him.
A lot of good stuff. But let's talk to Dr. Hillary. You met Dr. Hillary, I guess, on social media, Freddie, yes?
I don't remember.
And you met her. She joined us on the set last week talking about what she does as a life coach. And it's really interesting. So we need to get a little bit of background information of where she came from to understand where you are today. But if people want to follow her and find her, let's start with that. How do they find you?
So you can find me on Facebook. I do have my own page, which is Dr. Taylor's Holistic Community. I'm also on Instagram at DRTHCnet. And then my website is also www.drthc.net.
So we got to clarify first. Dr. Taylor is not an MD.
Correct.
She is not a DO, Doctor of Osteopath. So all the information we are providing today is through her holistic community as a practicing life coach.
Yes, and I do have my doctorate in clinical psychology, which is the doctor.
Which is
part.
the doctor part. So totally valid doctorate as a clinical psychologist. So just so we're putting it out there and clearing anything up that anyone's going to say as we go through this. Your background as a psychologist was in the addiction community.
Yes. It didn't begin that way. I tried to avoid it as much as I could. And when I moved to Florida, that seemed like that was where the need was.
And you started in different treatment centers? Or?
I started at the VA in New York. I've also worked in community mental health centers. I've worked in prisons. I've worked in state mental institutions that have been since closed. I have worked in a lot of different facilities. I've worked in courts. I've worked with different attorneys. But 8 years of my 20 of practice have been with the substance abuse community.
But that is not what you're doing now. So
Oh,
all
no.
of that information, everything led you down a path. So give everyone a little bit of information on that.
So I did love the work that I did. I met amazing people. I met good, kind-hearted, wonderful souls. And I found that there seemed to be a problem and a hole in treatment. And that hole to me was...
Microphone closer to you.
Sure. That hold to me was stop dwelling sort of on the past. I know that it leads us to where we are, and it does have an influence on what we're doing today, and we can learn from it. But that doesn't mean we have to relive it. So I focus as a life coach now on more of a positive kind of psychology, and I work with people on obtaining their goals, achieving the life that they want, that they need, that they deserve. And I think the past 2 years, people have really been taking a step back and saying, am I satisfied? Where is something lacking? Is something lacking in my life? Am I happy? And even that question, I don't think we get asked ever, are you happy? And really sit back and think about that. And I wonder what, life would look like if we were truly happy. And maybe there wouldn't be a need for treatment centers. So,
Which is really interesting. You think about if you're happy. We talk about that all the time. What makes you happier? And it sounds so simple, right?
well, happiness is a mood, right? So moods change and feelings change. And I can be happy in this moment and get a phone call that's really upsetting, and my mood can change. So I always talk to people about happiness is not the destination. It's just part of the journey. And life sucks in general, and then you come in, life sucks, and then you die. Like, you can look at it that way, and that's a really negative.
Yeah, we hope people aren't looking at life that way.
Exactly, but you find that some people do. And so my whole point is to say, well, life can suck if you choose for it to suck. Everything that we do is a choice. So if you wake up and you look outside, you're more likely to see a rainbow than if you don't wake up and if you stay in bed and if the shades are closed.
Now, there are people, though, that really chemically can't open the drapes and see that rainbow. You can be in the same room, you can be standing next to them, and you can be looking out the same window. And you're going to see that rainbow, and they might see the dark clouds around the rainbow.
And that is where I stepped back from psychology. And I let the psychologist deal with the major depression, with the major anxiety. Psychiatrists would be the ones that prescribe the medication. And I do believe that some people are chemically lacking in certain things, maybe because of substances they've put in their body, but also our genetic makeup and our DNA. So there is a need for pharmaceuticals in certain situations, and that is for the experts to decide.
You do not prescribe.
I do
Dr. Hiller does not prescribe anything.
I do make sure, and I check up on my clients if they are prescribed medications, just in the same way as if they're told to take vitamins. Are you taking your medications as prescribed? Not when you want to. Not, oh, I remembered today. And not. So as a life coach, I have different boundaries, and I get to send reminders to my clients and say, hey, did you remember to take your meds today?
Now, I got to ask you about life coaching. Is it very, Freddie's favorite word, bougie, to have a life coach?
No. I mean, I guess it is.
Who has a life coach?
I think everybody should have a life coach.
Why?
The way that I explain a life coach is an unbiased best friend. Somebody who is willing and able to hold space for you in the time that you need it. A lot of therapists, and I'm not knocking the therapy world, it definitely works and it's wonderful, and I have tons of colleagues and friends that are in that business. Therapists, you have to call a week, if not more, in advance, make an appointment, talk to their secretary, make sure those things are scheduled ahead of time. And I really work in the moment. I do have boundaries, and I don't answer the phone every time it rings, but my clients do have access to me on an on-call basis so that I can address their needs sort of in that moment and give them some coping skills and remind them of the ones that they have and sort of get them off of the ledge. If they need a session in that moment and I can have that time and space for them at that moment, I will. But if they need to schedule an appointment and they can wait and they can be patient, then that's something that we always work towards. And we set up an appointment for later that week.
Do you work?
There's a couple of things. The first thing is New World Order. And I'm going to harp on this until December. The object of the game, and we have talked to people all day today. Listen, everybody is struggling.
Everyone's struggling.
Everybody
right now.
has to get up.
True.
You got to put your shoes on. You got to tighten your belt. and you got to find a way to go. This is for everybody, not just me, not just you, not just her, everybody. So the struggle is real. The object of the game here is to try to tolerate the noise so that you can get out and do what you got to do. Now, what I like about what we're talking about is friends give you advice, but friends are not trained. They will give you their judgmental advice, which may not be the best advice. It may be good for them, but it may not be good for you. So I rather talk to somebody who has talked to thousands of people, and she's more versed in hearing what you have to say without judgment, because that's what mental awareness is all about, and go in that direction. But I like the way you say life coach. We should all have a life coach. We should also have true friends.
And the other thing is, your friends are your friends, your family's your family, and moms and dads should be moms and dads. And when you get those phone calls continuously from not your younger kids or your teenage kids, but certainly sometimes they need therapy as well, your older kids, and our millennials are going through a whole lot right now. Mom, let me tell you what happened. Dad, let me tell you what happened. And the mom and dad come together. Did you talk to this one? And next thing you know is you're coming home from your day at work and you're just trying to unwind, and you've got your 20s and your 30s-year-olds now calling. And we can hold only so much space because we are not unbiased, right? We are not an impartial observer to our children. And I think that is really important to have a life coach, as well as if you're going for therapy and you're getting medication as well. But you need someone to hold that space to say, you know what, this is how we're going to process this. And then you be mom and dad, and then you be siblings, and then you be friends. But what you do is so important because you are that unbiased opinion. And you work with so many I want to talk about the holistic approaches and the different modalities you work with. You work with chakras. You work with crystals. I'm sitting here looking at you. You've got the magnificent ring on.
Thank you.
You work with essential oils. Why are all of these holistic pieces so important?
So I believe in the mind, body, soul connection, but I also believe in the spiritual connection. And spirit and soul can be sort of interchangeable, but I like to separate them because, yes, our body is really important, and that's physical health, and there's a lot of things, diet, nutrition, sleep, that I talk about, and the importance of all of those things. And we can talk about our mental health and our emotional well-being and having support systems and coming from a response place instead of a reactive space, and really learning about feelings and emotions, and that's all well and good. But when you sit back and you think about holistic, it's treating the body as a whole, and there's this real part of us that desires to be spiritual. And I don't mean religious, I mean whatever you want that to be. But it's a connection. It's a connection to the universe. It's a connection to this planet in the here and now. It's being mindful. It's putting into practice the things that attach you to other people, that attach you to the planet. And then there's the soul. And the soul to me is, what is your purpose? What is the greater purpose? You talked about New World Order and really tapping into, does this align with me? A lot of people have been calling me recently about not being content with their occupation. So, okay, if you can't change that, because it's scary. It's scary to leave. It's scary to not know. Finances for a lot of people are an issue right now. But what can you do that feeds your soul? That can you volunteer? Can you do something that makes it so that you know that there's a purpose in your life? There's a meaning for everything.
But you have to pick, because either you're looking to earn or you're looking to earn yourself.
And part of it is balance. And that is the holistic idea, is that we do everything in balance. And yes, for some people right now, the finances might be more important than doing necessarily what they want to do. So I would say in those times and those moments, you have a family, I don't have time to volunteer, I have kids. Okay, can you listen to the radio? Can you listen to the radio station that you want to listen to in the car?
But that's where I think the differences of what you as a life coach, and I dub that term not so lightly, but a little bit lightly, because you do have your PhD in clinical psychology.
Yes.
So you're not like I have my degree as a health coach also, but I don't have my PhD in clinical psychology. So that is clearly what makes you the doctor of a total holistic practice.
So I have the education behind it, and I do honor and respect the fact that we all got here somehow. So our past is important, and some people really just need to be heard. Sometimes learning what our triggers are and just processing them, and somebody listening to them without judgment, like you were talking about, Freddie, is like the most important thing. And you can't always do that with your friends.
Okay, but if you have a trigger and you know what your triggers are, you know your triggers.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, go ahead.
I know I've got triggers. Can we overcome those triggers?
Why not?
So we can. So when it
telling you
happens
you
the next, that's my question.
Herself. We're our own worst enemy.
And we are. We
my
are.
God,
we
yes.
we see a picture of 10 people and we spot ourselves first and we pick out the worst things about us and oh my gosh, my knees look fat and we are the worst judges of ourselves.
We dress for everybody else.
We are horrible to ourselves. And I recently told one of my clients, your homework is that every time you compliment your dog and you say, good girl, you have to give yourself a compliment. You have to add, and so am I.
That's good.
And she looked at me like I was crazy. And how would the world be if we treated ourselves
Oh
the
my
way
God.
we treat other people or the
or
way
we-
we treat our pets?
Yes.
It will result. That's a good one. The pets.
Our
pets.
pets, they didn't do anything to deserve our. They're just there.
They will monies in the States to pets. I'm
Right?
sitting here saying, what about me?
Good girl, you found the grass outside, right? And then we ridicule ourselves because our lipstick is off, or
Or
Because
you
I'm
wear
not-
the wrong
we had a
shoes,
cookie.
or your hair has to be right, or your makeup, or a guy has to have the right tie on.
So
have
I
never
do-
seen such.
So I do
craziness.
talk about the psychology of that and where that comes from and the lack of confidence and how we can practice self-love and self-care and how important those things are. But at the same time, I don't focus. I don't let people dwell in the ick, in the, here's another story and here's another story. And some people, unfortunately, enjoy telling their stories. And that's where it's like, is this productive? Is this becoming a problem? Are you
Let's-
getting stuck?
That's an interesting point, because we were talking to somebody today about dwelling in the past and dwelling in the ick. And you said to this person, you have to stop leading with the ick, the yuck. You have to let that be where it is and let that settle, but you have to live the rest of your life. You can't open up, hi, let me tell you about my yuck.
And that was what they were doing. They were holding
Right.
conference. Every person they talked to, okay, saying enough.
And some people legitimately just want to talk and need to be heard, and that's great, but I'm not that person that wants to sit with it. And you ask, can we overcome our triggers? And I tell people, we write our own story. You get to write it. If your triggers are in that next chapter, that's because you wrote it in there. You get to choose what's in your next chapter. You get to choose what's in your next page. So learning how to respond instead of react to those triggers and finding the space. We talk about space a lot, and patience and breath and holding that space and saying, okay, anger management, I don't understand it, but road rage, wait a minute, if I just breathe and I just think that could be somebody rushing to their husband because they just found out that they had a heart attack and they're not thinking about who's on the road. And have I ever done that? Have I ever been so anxious to get somewhere that I may have cut somebody off? Okay, now my anger is a little bit more understanding, and now I can breathe through it. So it's not something that happens overnight, but reestablishing sort of new pathways and the old ones before we learned to hate ourselves, before we learned to be really hard on ourselves. Who were we?
You also talk a lot about intention, and I know we still have about 5 minutes left. Want to talk about intention with a lot of things. You talk about intention in your teas, intention in your herbs, of the things. So if you're drinking a tea or you're creating a tea or an herbal blend for someone, and you can really infuse it with your energy of intention.
I mean, there are studies that are based on energy and energetic fields. And I believe in the placebo effect. So Is it really happening? I don't know, but why not believe in something? That's kind of why I use so many different things. I don't believe that there's harm in having hope and believing in things. So if lavender is in multiple research studies for the smell being able to relax us, and the oils being a bug repellent, and different aspects of the oil of the flower, then of course it makes sense that if we drink it, it would have that same
calm you.
I don't know
relaxing,
about the bug
calming.
repellent, Doc. I don't know about that.
Lice
Bug
repellent. I
repellent.
used to spray it in my kids' hair
But
in
you
a
don't
spray
drink it.
bottle.
You know,
There are
drink-
some
Bug
essential
repellent.
oils that you can drink the lavender, but you have to be careful.
I don't know about drinking.
You have to.
it.
Well, it's
but
like in a
drinking.
tea, lavender tea.
Well, right, and I'm just
but that's
meaning
not
the
same
oil base.
That's not the
I
same
don't.
thing. Lavender tea and lavender oil for bugs is two different
Oh,
oils.
you know, not bug oil, but there
Yeah,
are
I
different
wouldn't use
essential
it in
oils.
Oil.
And
oil.
isn't it best to have something to hold on to? Isn't that a whole lot better than holding on to emptiness and then looking for something to hold on to? You can spend your whole life looking for something to hold on to. So I always say to people, start with a mirror. A mirror will show you the reflection of truth. And then seek out people like Doc, because her approach is so different. And I've done shows for 15 years, and I've talked to so many others, and they're all great. But this is a refreshing approach. New World Order requires a refreshed approach. And you laugh at me. I'm telling you, more of her is what we need. How do people reach out to you?
On my website, www.drthc.net. I also have a toll-free number. It's 1-833-552-4442. 1-833-552-4442. Yep, I took your advice. I got a number.
We're going to get something like call me or a help is on the way or something.
Help is on the way.
And we don't have a whole lot of time, but you also do work with people with CBD
I do.
and managing their medical marijuana. You do not prescribe it, but you do help the management of it.
I help people understand it. I help people figure out what their intentions are. Again, going back to intentions. What are your intentions? How to use it the best way. Learning why they're using it and answering some questions that some of the doctors can't answer and finding answers if I don't have them.
That's what you got to find some answers.
Yep.
A non-biased opinion, which is fantastic.
And I'm going to tell you, millennials
Always.
right now can use your help. I think everybody could use it.
I was going to say, I think everyone can use your help.
I'm back
Thank
to
you.
that. You know,
It's
it
back
is
about
what it is.
intentions and choice. And I think right now, everyone's got something. And do you work with couples or individuals?
I do. I work with couples. I work with children. I work with families. Sometimes we get together. Zoom is an amazing thing. Just Skype, Zoom, FaceTime, connecting with people that we normally can't connect with. And I know that people look at it as a bad thing. Oh, we're stuck inside. We can't see those people. But think of if you use those things, think about the people you've connected with that you normally wouldn't, that are
But I like
across
that you
the
work
world.
with
So-
families also, because if you pull out one from a family, you're missing a lot of the components of everything else.
I tell people when it's a couple that usually if one changes and the other doesn't, there's a problem.
Well, we're going to be doing driveway therapy.
Oh, that would be great.
The doctor is in, like
Remember,
Lucy.
we talked about
Drive by.
No,
Just-
you're going to be in the driveway. We got music. With Mr. Bubbles is in. All sorts of good stuff.
Oh, great.
Kids are going
I'll
to
sign
be
up.
occupied in it. It's a great concept. Anyway, we have to go. This show is brought to you by.
This show is brought to you by Brooklyn Cafe Show Coffee, sponsored by Don Pablo Coffee Growers and Roasters. You can find a bag of coffee on our website, brooklyncafe.tv, or always visit us at the studio at 866-224-5422. Tune in tonight at 7:30 for Jordana Foster Ready, Set, Go Beyond show. Tonight we talk about habits. Do you establish good habits in 2022? Have a great night, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. brunch.
And don't be late.
Bye-bye.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an AMP2.TV production.